Since you ain't sleep yet, let me tell you 3 dark truths about Thanksgiving from the Book of Consciousness. No.
Hi lovelies, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Belinda Strana. Thank you so much for all the love and support. To my returning subscribers, to those people that share my videos, leave commentaries, and also educate each and every one of us, you guys are the real MVP. So
Lovelies, I came across this teachings on my For You and I thought to share where people are in their opinions on Thanksgiving and why it's actually not something worth celebrating. While some other people were of the opinion that it is something worth celebrating and everybody should just move up from the past and focus on the future. Lovelies, I was able to put up some historical facts and some other stitches I was able to put here together. Please, leave me your own thoughts in the comment section of what you think of this video. And please do not forget that we do not support any form of bullying and harassment. We are just here for educational and informative purposes. So lovelies, why not just give or air your own opinion, and we are going to come back to talk about it.
Since you ain't sleep yet, let me tell you 3 dark truths about Thanksgiving from the Book of Consciousness. Nope, don't watch this if you ain't spiritually confident. Number 1, you're celebrating the victory of criminals. You're celebrating the victory of European colonizers coming over to the Americas and slaying thousands of innocent indigenous families, and that is the root of this holiday. Number 2, it embodies the spirit of gluttony. The feast becomes the focus, stuffing, overeating, and draining your body's energy instead of honoring inner growth, healing, or spiritual alignment. It turns gratitude into gluttony and disconnects people from their higher selves. And number 3, it hijacks the energy of abundance and sell it back to you as a holiday sale. The moment dinner ends, the vibration shifts straight into consumer madness. Black Friday, overspending, chaotic crowds. Thanksgiving doesn't teach abundance. It funnels people into capitalism disguised as celebration. Instead of celebrating this day as Thanksgiving, just use this time to connect back with family members you ain't seen in a while because everyone is off.
I didn't grow up with Thanksgiving. I feel nothing about Thanksgiving. If you tell, I mean, how are Native Americans, you know?
Well, I mean,
how do they deal with this?
We talk about a lot.
Thanksgiving.
I have a lot of friends and family that don't celebrate it at all, you know,
Sure.
and just completely ignore it because it is very damaging to have this mythology, you know, that just focuses on this made-up moment of history of, you know, Native and Pilgrims coming together, and so it's just like, you know, so people just be like, well, you know, we're paying respect to Native peoples, but you know, but you're also just saying, like, forget about like these centuries of land, like moving you off of your land, genocide, all these things that happened throughout U.S. history, and just, but remember that time we had dinner together?
Yeah, it's not good. It's
So,
not, yeah.
but I feel like it is an important holiday that we do get a moment to come together, you know, and if you want to pay respect and you want to, you know, be an ally and, you know, understand indigenous culture, you know, pay respect, think about the land that you're standing on, learn a little bit about the history, learn about the tribes that are living by you, buy food from indigenous producers, buy a native cookbook, you know?
I don't know about you, but I didn't.
You know what's wild? Every year, this country tells the same story. Pilgrims, peace, and pie. Like it was some sort of miracle of unity. But that's not what happened. Thanksgiving wasn't a feel-good dinner. It was a turning point. The moment that kindness got repaid with blood. Let's start there. The Pilgrims didn't land on empty land. They landed on land where people had already lived. They'd already built and farmed for thousands of years. And most of those people, the Wampanoag, had just survived a pandemic that the Europeans brought. You dirty heathens. It wiped out entire villages before the Mayflower even showed up. So when those starving settlers landed in 1620, they weren't saved by luck. They were saved by mercy. The Wampanoag taught them how to live off of land that wasn't theirs, how to grow food, how to fish, how to stay alive. And that's the part they love to tell, but only half of it, of course. The first Thanksgiving wasn't even called that. It wasn't a holiday, it was a tense peace meeting. Two nations sitting down, both knowing that it could go bad at any moment. And for a while, it held until the settlers wanted more. Greedy bastards. More land, more control. Then came the broken treaties, the stolen crops, the forced conversions. By 1637, English colonists had killed over 700 Pequot men, women, and children, burnt them alive, and then held their first day of official Thanksgiving to celebrate the massacre. That's the part the textbooks leave out. That's what they dressed up in paper hats and called gratitude. The Thanksgiving that we know now, that didn't come until 200 years later, during the Civil War. Abraham Lincoln needed something to pull the country together, so he made Thanksgiving a national holiday in 1863. He wasn't honoring peace, he was manufacturing nostalgia, a story to distract a broken nation from how violent it had always been. And over time, that story became comfort, because it's easier to celebrate a myth than face a massacre. It's easier to say we were all friends than admit what this country did to survive. That's how America rewrites pain, with parades and prayers. For Native people, Thanksgiving is not a celebration. It's mourning. It's about loss, survival, and the refusal to disappear. Every year, Indigenous families gather, not to give thanks, but to remember. Because the truth didn't vanish with the tribes that they tried to erase. It's still here. They are still here. So yeah, eat with your people, love on them. Be grateful, make sure to do land acknowledgments. But don't pretend that this day was born out of peace. It was born out of blood. And a lie so big they built an entire holiday to cover it. The real story of Thanksgiving isn't what they told you. It's what they didn't want you to know.
We all know the story we were given as kids, right? A long wooden table, a crisp autumn breeze in 1621, settlers and the Wampanoag sitting shoulder to shoulder in a tender moment of gratitude, a nation supposedly born from a shared meal and a handshake. It's a comforting picture, but history has never been that tidy, and it's almost never that innocent, right? If we want to understand the weight of this day, really understand it, we have to look past the painted fable of 1621 and turn toward the shadows of 1637. We have to look toward the Mystic Massacre, a morning when the quiet along the Connecticut River was broken forever and the concept of Thanksgiving was weaponized. 16 years after Plymouth, whatever fragile cooperation once existed in the region had crumbled. The Pequot, a powerful nation that had governed the region's trade long before Europeans arrived, found themselves pressed by settlers hungry for land, control, and total dominance. And then came May 26, 1637. English forces from the Massachusetts Bay and Connecticut colonies, along with their indigenous allies, surrounded a fortified Pequot village near the Mystic River. Inside were mostly women, children, and elders, people who expected dawn, right? Not death. The order that morning wasn't for discussion. It wasn't for peace. It was to burn the village to the ground. Flames swallowed the homes first, and then the screams followed. Anyone who fled was met with musket fire. The brutality was so extreme that even the English settlers, Narragansett allies, looked on in horror, calling out, "It's too furious." In under an hour, hundreds of Pequot lives were erased. And here's the part of the textbooks always seem to skip. When the soldiers returned, Massachusetts Bay Governor John Winthrop didn't call for sorrow or repentance. He proclaimed a day of thanksgiving, not for harvest, for victory, for the destruction of a people he believed God had cleared from the path. For years afterward, Thanksgiving days were declared by colonial governors not just for peaceful harvest, but after successful raids. The term became a stamp of divine approval on violence. And that brings us to the question not a lot of people ask, right? If the massacre happened in May, why do we celebrate in November? Because the holiday we know today isn't a direct continuation of 1621 or 1637, it's a reconstruction. The truth is simpler and more cynical. Abraham Lincoln needed a unifying national story during the Civil War, and November was the month that worked. Thanksgiving wasn't a beloved colonial ritual passed down faithfully through time. It was a political decision, a nation-building myth chosen during one of the bleakest moments in American history. Lincoln declared the first national Thanksgiving in 1863, influenced by decades of lobbying from writer Sarah Josepha Hale. He placed it in November not to honor pilgrims, but to try to heal a fractured union. It was never about historical accuracy. It was about manufacturing unity. But once the country accepted November, the myth retroactively grew around it. A neat story of pilgrims, pumpkins, and peace, papering over the violence that actually defined colonial expansion, right? This is why, while millions gather around tables today, thousands of others gather at Coles Hill in Plymouth, looking out over the rock that has been polished into a national symbol, but never asked to carry the truth. They're not there to feast. Since 1970, the United American Indians of New England have held the National Day of Mourning, a gathering born from silencing. Wamsutta Frank James, a Wampanoag leader, had been invited to speak at a state celebration marking 350 years since the Pilgrims landed. But when organizers read his speech, a clear, unflinching account of land theft, disease, slavery, and erasure, they told him he couldn't give it. They wanted something positive. He refused to rewrite the truth. And instead of joining their banquet, he gathered his people and mourned. That mourning continues today, a living counter-narrative, a reminder that behind the myth is a story soaked in grief, resistance, and survival. Acknowledging this history doesn't mean we can't be grateful for our lives or our loved ones, but gratitude doesn't belong to a government holiday, and it doesn't require a lie to sustain it, right? My gratitude today exists in spite of this day, not because of it. So while I give thanks for the blessings in my own life, I'm refusing to celebrate the myth. Instead of giving space for the reality, I'm remembering that for many, today isn't a feast, it's a testament to endurance. We honor the ancestors, we acknowledge the land, and we remember. You guys have an awesome day.
One thing I'm not tolerating this beautiful Thanksgiving is the Native Americans trying to ruin it for all the Americans. I understand that the history isn't too well, but guess what? It's 2025. Y'all need to leave that shit in the past, because the reason that I'm going to go meet my family that I might not see next year, eat some wonderful food, and enjoy this American holiday is because just that. Okay? We're not celebrating Thanksgiving for the same reasons the Pilgrims did. I understand the atrocities, the small blankets and the stealing the land. I get it. It was horrible, but that was then and this is now. So I'm not going for that shit today. I've been seeing videos of y'all people on here complaining all fucking week, and I don't want to see no more. All right. Today is family day. Matter of fact, that's what it's always been to us. But y'all get on here every fucking year, want to remind us of what the Pilgrims did to y'all. We don't care no more. We don't give a damn. I'm sorry. Today is family day for Americans, black and white, and then whoever else came after that. But today is our fucking holiday. And I just really hate the fact that every year, the closer it gets to Thanksgiving and Christmas, the more Native Americans come out and try to remind us what the fucking Pilgrims did. We don't care. Okay? 1 plate, 2 plate, 3 plate, 4. That's what's for today. I don't understand what y'all don't understand. Stop bringing up the past and let us enjoy our beautiful holiday today. It's Thanksgiving. I'm thankful for whatever I have left. All right. Because it's hard out here. Let us celebrate in peace. All right. Every year, y'all don't got to get on here. The Pilgrims did this, and after they had a battle, and they celebrated, they ate turkey and mac and cheese, and I don't want to fucking hear it. I don't care what they ate. I'm going to eat turkey and mac and cheese with my goddamn family. So y'all need to leave us alone today. Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Do you celebrate Thanksgiving? Well, let me tell you what you're actually celebrating. Thanksgiving isn't about peace and gratitude like they told us in school. The truth is, the word Thanksgiving was born out of bloodshed. After white colonizers came to this land, they massacred indigenous people. They stole their land and held a feast to celebrate their victory. The so-called Thanksgiving wasn't about unity and bringing family together. It was about erasing people and rewriting history to make it sound good. White settlers were not giving thanks to God for blessings. They were giving thanks for taking lives and land that did not belong to them. So the next time you sit down at that table and start to eat for Thanksgiving, remember, Thanksgiving at its core represented genocide, massacre, stolen land, the killing of indigenous people, and stolen culture. And if we want to honor truth, we can't keep ignoring the real history. But now you know the real meaning of Thanksgiving.
Oh, hey, Space. So a quick reminder. Why don't I celebrate Thanksgiving? It's because I learned what it's actually about, right? So in school, probably like a lot of you, were told that the American Thanksgiving is celebrating the Native Americans helping those poor pilgrims when they first came over, right? No. The actual meaning behind Thanksgiving is they were celebrating a massacre, where after all the help the natives gave the pilgrims, including teach them how to, wash their ass so they weren't stinky, the pilgrims will, murder them, slaughtered them, decimated them, and they were giving thanks for the murder of the natives. And me, of being part of Native American, Native Mexican, indigenous culture, once I learned that, I don't celebrate it anymore. But I've gotten over myself about it. So if you guys still celebrate Thanksgiving, that's on you. I don't, and I'm not going to judge you for it. I do understand that most people don't know what it's really about. And even the ones that I tell that it's really about, they don't really care like I do, and that's okay. But, enjoy your family, enjoy your food, have fun. As for us, we're going to the movies.
One thing you learn from Palestine is to learn how powerful propaganda is. And it's also starting right here in the United States, unlearning the propaganda of these kind-hearted pilgrims that shared meals with natives. Honor the truth about genocide, settler colonialism, ethnic cleansing, and erasure, not the myths that we've been sold by Israel and the United States. Changing the world starts right here in our own backyards. And in the United States, we are literally in the belly of the beast. We have the most power to make change right here. And when we say land back for Palestinians, we also include land back for Turtle Island and all indigenous people. If one thing...
Did the ship itself turn around to go back to England at this point? How long was the ship accessible to them?
The ship was accessible to them through 1621 when it went back. So they didn't really have a place to stay except there was this abandoned Patuxet village. But so the men would go out essentially surveying from the ship, and the women and children stayed on the ship. Now, you had brackish water, the supplies, no bueno, like they went wrong. And if you look at went wrong, the supplies went bad, the food went bad, things were spoiled, things were rotten. You're living in these close quarters. It's not good. So you had these women who were taking care of anyone who was sick and all the children that were on the ship. The men were out getting fresh air. The women were staying in there in that. And so by the time you get to the end of that first winter, half the people had died. So you went from having 102 to 50 some. And at the end of that winter, there were 4 married women left. There was one other woman who was a teenager at the time. So sometimes you'll see the number as being like 5 women that had lived. So even those pictures you see of the first Thanksgiving, there are too many women in the picture. Like there should not be that many, and there are too many children in the picture. But a lot of historians think that so many of the men survived because they were not sitting in that ship with all of the germs and all of the everything. And then William Bradford's wife did not die of an illness. She fell off the side of the ship and drowned. But it was parked. And I don't know a lot about that story, but every time I think about her, I'm like, was that intentional?
Yeah.
It had to have sucked. It really had to have been awful.
Use this opportunity to say happy Thanksgiving to everyone and who celebrated and who don't celebrate. So with that being said, every year this Thanksgiving isn't celebrated. Why some choose not to? Then again, I decided to still make a research and practically everything happening has a historical background connected to it. So in the case of Thanksgiving, it has a historical background that is connected with the Native Americans. According to history, it says to be the period where, a lot of massacre happened. That is when these colonies or colonizers took over and decided that they were going to use that day to do what they thought was right for them. And I think that because of that, some Native Americans have seen it as the day of remembrance, even though it was supposed to be the day of celebration, drinking, eating, and partying. It happens that the day that was supposed to be all celebration was actually the day of, massacre and all of that. Please ignore the background. Like I said earlier on, I'm not even in the house. So, but just try as much as I can to do what I have to do. So, with that being said, there has been a lot that have been tied down. So many people are of the opinion that it is not worth celebrating. So many people are like, if you're celebrating, you are actually praising what happened. Why some people are like, you could just let it go and let it just be all celebration, which everybody have their own point of view, right? But the fact remains that it's something that has tied in a situation where a celebration turned to a massacre. So it's actually it all depends on what you chose to. If you chose to use the day to mourn the people who lost their lives, or you just use it to actually celebrate it, you know. So many Native Americans and everybody have their own history. Everybody have their own historical backgrounds and facts and all of that. So when some people choose not to, it's left for them. When some choose to, it's actually left for them. I'm even talking in reference of, a guy that was like, oh, Native Americans, you just forget about it and all of that. I think it's just a way of like, oh my God, black people should just forget about, it's not something that it's a stained thing. It's a constant reminder of what happened, and it is what it is. I know it's not something that you can just automatically get erased, right? In the sense that there are some family even to date that their lineage was affected, right? So it is the ancestors were affected. So as just the way other people were oppressed, right? Okay. So when I saw that it's actually, Thanksgiving for celebration, and I decided to get a little deep into it to get some historical fact into it, and I found out a lot happened on that day. A lot happened. But it's so easy to like, oh my God, move on and forget. Yeah, but you still not dispute the fact that something happened then, right? Anyway, lovelies, why not just leave me your own thought in the comment section of what you think of this video. And please do not forget that we do not support any form of bullying and harassment. We're just here for educational and informative purposes. So please share this video. Subscribe to this channel if you're here to do that. Like, and I will see you lovelies when I upload the next one.
Share, and I will see you lovelies when I upload the next one.